Good evening. We continue to follow that breaking news at 6:30. An inmate, a suspected murderer, escaped from the Sutter Roseville over the weekend. He has now been caught. The Placer County Sheriff's Office shared this photo this afternoon showing the suspect, Abril. He was recaptured behind a home in Rocklin near Whitney and Sunset Boulevards. We are hearing from that homeowner tonight, but first I want to go ahead and start off with our Jeannie Nguyen. She is live in Placer County with the latest from law enforcement. Good evening, Jeannie.
Alex, residents in Placer County can now breathe a sigh of relief now that the manhunt for Abril is finally over. Now, earlier today, Sheriff Wayne Wu did say and credit the residents in that Rocklin neighborhood for staying alert and for guiding them essentially to Abril.
Credible sighting was back at Rainier Court at about 4 in the morning the day of the escape.
It was where Abril was last seen early yesterday morning and ultimately led law enforcement to his capture this afternoon.
There's a green belt behind Rainier, Antelope Creek area. It's very thick.
Sheriff Wu says this all started because a homeowner along Zion Court, not too far from Rainier, noticed something unusual when he took his dog into the backyard.
In fact, it was Abril. Law enforcement in the area descended quickly, and Abril was safely taken into custody.
Erin Heath was right next door when this all happened and says she had a feeling he wouldn't be too far from this neighborhood.
This could happen here, this could. So when it just happened, it's not surprising. It's terrifying, but not surprising. And for some reason, I felt like this was the spot.
Sheriff Wu says Abril was found with only his jail-issued underwear on.
He was clothed in only his jail boxers, and he still had the belly chains around his waist.
At this point, Sheriff Wu says there was only one deputy assigned to watch Abril when he escaped. When it comes to how could this have happened, Sheriff Wu didn't have much to add.
This deputy does have due process rights as well, and he hasn't even been interviewed. So I would hate to speculate on what this deputy's actions were or were not prematurely.
And while this all started at Sutter Roseville, Sheriff Wu says Abril is currently back at the hospital he escaped from.
He's being watched by 6 members of our SWAT team. And once he's medically cleared, he'll be housed at the South Placer Jail.
When it comes to how this situation played out, Sheriff Wu says he'll take the heat.
Take full responsibility, and we'll make sure it never happens again. At least not while I'm the sheriff, I can guarantee you that.
Now, of course, this is still under investigation, but Sheriff Wu did say that when Abril was taken into custody, there was no confrontation. Alex, back to you.
Jeannie, before we go here, how will the sheriff's office learn from this situation? Did they say anything about that?
Yeah, Sheriff Wu did say that following this incident, they will be reviewing their policies and procedures when it comes to inmates in the hospital to, again, make sure that this doesn't happen again.
All right, Jeannie, thank you so much. Now, Abril was first arrested by the Placer County Sheriff's Office back in April in Roseville. Law enforcement attempted to arrest him, which led to a shootout with hostages at Mahaney Park. A man who was taken hostage was killed and a CHP officer was hurt. And this all stemmed from a freeway shooting that Abril was connected to. Again, Abril was found behind someone's home in Rocklin. The backyard backs up to a creek, and our Roxanne Elias got a look at that backyard and just spoke with the homeowner a few hours ago.
Alex, Bill Sanchez, that lives in this home right here behind me, was visibly shaken up when we talked to him earlier today after Abril was taken into custody. Now, just to put things into perspective for you, we're just about 3 miles from where he escaped from that hospital yesterday.
He was tucked up right here
in the middle of a ravine
behind my woodshed
and in the creek.
Right in that little alcove
is where Bill Sanchez spotted Abril after stepping out on his deck.
I walked out to take the dog out to go poop, and I looked over the edge right here at the creek. I do it 5 times a day, and there wasn't an orange jumpsuit 2 hours ago, and there was an orange jumpsuit laying right there on the ground.
It's the same neighborhood where other neighbors had seen Abril walking in their yard. The Rocklin homeowner says he heard some splashing in the water, so he called police, and they arrived within minutes.
There was probably, over 20 guys with guns drawn standing right here on this deck and looking over this fence at the time. They didn't want me standing next to them, so.
This is how authorities found Abril. Sanchez says from what he could see, he was only wearing his underwear and was quickly taken into custody. The entire community now breathing a sigh of relief, knowing the escaped inmate is no longer in their backyard.
We can enjoy our neighborhood. It's usually pretty quiet around here. So it's a big sigh of relief to have him out of here.
the whole Placer County is relieved now, so it's a big deal. He could have maybe hijacked the car and been down in LA by now. Nobody knew where he was. They're just lucky that they were able to get him. So.
The community out here tells me that they're grateful for all of law enforcement involved that was able to put all of this to an end. Right now, their biggest question is exactly how was this inmate able to escape from the hospital? We're still waiting on those answers. Alex, back to you in studio.
And coming up a little bit later in the show, how rare is a case like this and what happens when an inmate is in the hospital? We're speaking with a former Sacramento County sheriff. All right, and other headlines that we're talking about today, too. Larry Nasser was stabbed multiple times in prison and has substantial injuries, including an apparent collapsed lung. He's serving time for sexually assaulting dozens of female members of the U.S. gymnastics team. The stabbing happened during an altercation with another inmate. And a Marine is now in custody after a 14-year-old girl was found in the barracks at Camp Pendleton near San Diego. The teen was reported missing on June 13th, and military police found her at the camp on June 28th. The case is being investigated by human trafficking investigators. And then a sideshow turned violent over the weekend after an Amazon truck was broken into. The aerial video from CHP shows the dramatic moments out in Elk Grove. We are told that the driver got away unharmed and with most of the cargo. Elk Grove and Sacramento police arrested several people as part of a CHP sideshow crackdown. Still ahead onto the point, Governor Newsom signing a new law speeding up water projects, among other things. But why was the Delta Tunnel project left out?
We are going to continue to watch big heat building in the forecast, excessive heat watch going into place, how hot the temperatures are about to get.
And the East Coast suffering a once-in-a-thousand-year flooding, the impact on our travel, and a look at the damage done. Extreme weather is hitting the country this summer. I mean, take a look at this. Damaging storms caused once-in-a-thousand-year flooding in the Northeast. Parts of Vermont are under a flash flood emergency, and people there are bracing just for the worst of it. Search and rescue efforts were also underway in Stony Point, New York. An 80-year-old has to be rescued from his home after he became trapped by water. So if you are traveling through the area, make sure that you check ahead. Make sure you check in on your flights. And closer to home, Phoenix has been battling 110-degree weather or higher for the last 10 consecutive days now. And Monica, we're bracing for dangerous heat ourselves coming up here, right?
That's right. That's also going to be migrating its way westward towards California today, though quite pleasant outside, right around the 80s to near 90 up and down the valley, through the foothills, near 80 up top for the Sierra. Still seeing that nice breeze come in from the Pacific at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. So again, we're pulling in some of that cooler air. Temperatures at this hour dropping into the 80s to right around 90 up and down the valley, still in the 60s across the coast, 80s for the foothills and 70s up top for the Sierra. Hourly forecast for tomorrow heading into our Tuesday, or I should say Monday evening, we're going to see those temperatures dropping into the 70s. Tomorrow morning, sunrise 5:51. We'll see that forecast low of 57 degrees. So tonight through early tomorrow, still beautiful outside. This is the time of year, though, that we start to see that average high bumping up into the mid-90s. This typically is our hottest time of the year. Started the state fairs on Friday. That average high 95 degrees. We don't cool back into the 80s until September for the first day of fall. So in the meantime, it's summer heat. Excessive heat watch going into place on Friday. That takes us all the way through Monday, 98 to 113 for those afternoon highs, and overnight lows only in the 60s and 70s, even some low 80s. It's all because of that big high pressure ridge. Big heat returning to the forecast. Highs tomorrow near 80 up top for the Sierra. We're already into the 90s for the foothills, 60s across the coast. But as we head inland, you can see those 90s are back in the outlook, mid to upper 90s. So it's a quick jump up here in this 10-day forecast. We'll stay in the 90s through Thursday, and then it's 100s Friday through next Monday.
Still ahead, if you feel like crime is going up in California, well, that fear is justified. We're digging through the numbers that are out now. Welcome back. If you are just turning on the news today, a suspected murderer and inmate that escaped the Sutter Roseville Medical Center is now back in custody. The Placer County Sheriff's Office shared this photo this afternoon showing suspect Abril. He was recaptured behind a home in Rocklin near Whitney and Sunset Boulevards. Former Sacramento Sheriff John McGinnis has a couple of thoughts about a rare case like this.
They're a combative, violent person. You want to restrain him. You want to have sufficient safeguards in that regard. Nonetheless, you have an obligation, an absolute uncompromisable obligation to ensure that their health and safety needs are met. And remember, this guy, notwithstanding what we know about his behavior back in April, at this point, he's an innocent man. He's not been convicted of those crimes. And so the law enforcement's a really difficult balance.
Abril is accused of shooting and killing a man that he took hostage at Roseville Park back in April. We are continuing to follow this arrest, and we'll have more from the neighborhood where it happened tonight on Late News Tonight at 11. Now, Governor Newsom signed his big infrastructure package into law this afternoon. It's meant to cut red tape and streamline building infrastructure projects faster in California, and that includes things like bridges and water projects. So in tonight's Reiner Report, political reporter Morgan Reiner shows us why he also signed part of the budget.
The governor added in this infrastructure package into the overall budget near the end of the process. It's the reason why it took a while to come to an agreement with lawmakers on the budget. Newsom was asked about this strategy, throwing big policy proposals in at the last minute at today's press conference.
Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled a plan in May to overhaul the state's environmental permitting process known as the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. The budget needed to pass the following month in June.
Process is always tough. And I recognize I don't necessarily always make it easy.
Some criticize the governor for the late proposal.
I don't have that many summers left as governor, and I don't want to dream of regretting. Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Some were concerned that this proposal would streamline a very controversial water project known as the Delta Tunnel. The governor agreed to take that out.
I've got a team that's assembled directly to work on it. We're going to see that through.
And Monday, the governor officially signed the package into law.
Hell of a job, everybody. You're here. Pass these out.
The final package was bipartisan. Assembly Republican leader James Gallagher sent out a statement saying, "I'm tired of watching infrastructure projects like Sites Reservoir get tied up for years, while Californians are left to suffer the consequences. For years, Republicans have been trying to cut red tape that holds up these critical projects. I'm glad Governor Newsom and our Democratic colleagues have finally joined us."
The only criticism Republicans had left was that this huge package did not include streamlined permitting for housing projects, which are also often held up because of CEQA. And we know California has a housing shortage.
As Morgan mentioned, speeding up Delta Tunnel construction was not part of Newsom's actions. That controversial project proposes years of environmental impacts and could change the Delta as we see it today. And we were recently in the Delta hearing from people about the project. It's part of our upcoming special later this month called Water Wasted. Arguments remain with our changing climate and what is the right response to move water across the state.
Year, if we had been able to have the Delta Conveyance Project online in January, we would have captured another 228,000 acre-feet of water, and that's enough to feed about 2.3 million people, or about 800,000 households.
First off, they really couldn't have moved extra water this year because there was no place to put the water.
It's a controversial project that we're digging into later this month in our upcoming weather special called Water Wasted. Meanwhile, luxury homes are now gone. This is in Southern California in Rolling Hills outside of Los Angeles. Tonight, more people might need to be evacuated after major landslides there crumbled these homes that you're looking at. 12 of them have been destroyed. One person said that they only had about 20 minutes to pack up and leave. The land is sliding into the canyon below these luxury homes. A water leak was reported on Saturday, but people say that they had been hearing cracks under their homes as far back as Thursday. Devastating images. All right. And if you feel like you're hearing more and more about crime in the news, it's not because we like to report it. Newly released statistics show that California's violent crime rate and property crime rate are up. But if you didn't hear about this report, it might have something to do with the timing of its release. So ABC 10's Becca Habegger joins us to explain all the numbers right now. Right, Becca?
Yeah, you know, Alex, California Attorney General Rob Bonta released the annual Crime in California report. And he did it the afternoon of Friday, June 30th, ahead of what for many people would be a 4-day weekend. So as the nonprofit and nonpartisan political and policy news outlet Cal Matters puts it, political office holders at all levels and of all ideological stripes habitually pursue a time-dishonored practice when releasing data. If the data have a negative cast, they will be released quietly, often late on a Friday afternoon, to minimize media coverage. So Cal Matters dove into some important numbers you might want to know, and we want to amplify their reporting. The report shows California's violent crime rate increased more than 6% in 2021, and the property crime rate was up over 6% as well. The homicide rate dipped slightly, but the robberies rate jumped by more than 10%. Now, the Attorney General said in a statement accompanying the emailed report, while crime rates remain significantly below their historical highs, property and violent crimes continue to have devastating consequences for communities across the state, and gun violence remains a major threat to public safety. So here in Sacramento, you may recall, Police Chief Kathy Lester held a news conference last month after a string of shootings plagued multiple neighborhoods. She says looking at the data helps her department narrow its focus.
We know that violent crime occurs in very small geographic areas of our city, and it's committed by a very small number of people. And it comes down to really 3 priority areas: Del Paso Heights, Oak Park, and then Meadowview and Valley High. And those are the areas that we have really been concentrating in and really trying to provide services.
And that was June 15th. And Alex, also included in the annual California Criminal Justice Statistical Reports for the first time this year, a report on what they're calling crime guns. Those are firearms that have been illegally possessed, used in a crime, or suspected of having been used in a crime.
Now, we've looked at that, but for people at home who haven't, what are some of the key takeaways from that report?
Sure. So it looked at crime gun seized over the course of 13 years, from 2010 through 2022. Now, altogether, some 600,000 crime guns were recovered by law enforcement agencies, with instances in all 58 of California's counties. And of the crime guns that could be traced back to dealers, half of them, about 38,000, came from just 82 dealers.
Yeah, and we have a link to that crime report on our website. Just go to abc10.com/links and you can take a look at it. Coming up after the break, the Homeless World Cup that we told you about on Friday. How did it go over the weekend? We'll show you after the break. More than 500 athletes representing 50 countries are in Sacramento for the Homeless World Cup. And this marks the first time that the United States has hosted the tournament aimed at raising awareness about homelessness and the people who have overcome it. Luke Cleary catches up with those involved.
Kicking off a week-long 4-on-4 tournament in Sacramento, the Homeless World Cup.
To play in this area in front of these people, it's awesome.
Athletes representing 50 countries around the globe, all of them former refugees or people who experienced homelessness. The U.S. hosting for the first time at Sacramento State.
Getting rid of the stigma of, oh, homeless people are drug addicts, criminals. No, they're people just like us, and they can be athletes just like us.
Team USA coach Reed Fox says his players come from all over the country.
It's a beautiful thing. I love being here.
And 24-year-old Sienna Jackson is from right here in Sacramento. She was kicked out of her home.
I was sleeping at parks. I was couch hopping. I was outside. I would just find anywhere that was a shelter. I would sleep downtown Sacramento a lot, which isn't the best. A lot of roaches.
Now she's part of something bigger.
Knowing that I'm wearing USA on my shirt and I'm literally representing the country, it's crazy. It is crazy. I'm proud.
It's a day of joy.
Sac State President Robert Nelson says the event shows it's possible for people to get out of homelessness.
This is a day that's going to stay in my mind for the rest of my life. This is a day that's going to stay in the mind of Sacramento State for the rest of our lives.
The Homeless World Cup, spreading hope, inspiration, and healing through sport.
All right, and you can check out the Homeless World Cup through Saturday at Sacramento State. And we also want to mention what's coming up tomorrow. And to the point, we are continuing to cover the recapture of a murder suspect. Abril escaped from Sutter Roseville Medical Center just over the weekend. He is now back in custody of law enforcement. He was taken into custody in just his underwear in Rocklin, and some businesses did not even open today. So how was this all able to occur? And thankfully, neighbors can breathe a sigh of relief. So we'll be talking about all those things tomorrow. Of course, we want to hear what's going on in your world and your community. So don't forget to reach out to us. We have Instagram, Facebook, or you can always send us an email. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.